Into Ghana mine ye wo Niama nyame akafa on mine since independence. Tena make an own history book mo. It's nyame biweni. Na nyame ye chire since 2006. And your boy who they say ye be koso abodero. Aba ye mpanyifo ehu se na betimi asayechi. Akoye saniama na irade pese ye na efa ye mine ho. Eye titi nshira anyankopɔ de gu ye mane so. Ba esan say ye mpanyifo adana wachi achire nyankopɔ inti san no endedi wo ya brabo mo. Those places are not manifesting in our nation, so we are struggling. Development eba small development ne ye hu dede say your boy you want to Ghana there be send yesese ye koye no ye nkoye nim sa. We are struggling. Esan say san shirain sonya nyankopɔ de tie your mind. The foundation of this nation was established in 7 different blessings. And because we have forgo those foundational stones, and into that government upon government ba, then they struggle. Oya kakra, one say, Oko nim kakra na fene ma say, Oko nim kakra na ma say, Oko nim kakra na ma say. That have been a history of our country to 60-something years now. And that must change. We start championing this cause so that the nation and the leaders will come to the place of understanding, so that our nation will walk in the glory that God has prepared. And nintina yenya brea ye koso cancer me. Into joining me as a be koso no, but money so be share broadcasting. And yamia do ye fear say ye be even go to radio stations to be talking about these things. Because 2024 election, a yemre nyankopon esa emma ye chance. So that betimi asa yechi akonante sa kwan no so a ebe boye man, so that it will be so glorious. I no cry say Nkrumah bebre ombetie me eni ne keka ho. Obi oye de den kra adwe woni tim no ande woni tim. So obefro say your false prophet. So obefro say intro na woka eni de Nkrumah bebre ti sa nti no de me enhame. But ne awrade asoma say eno na eye. Dodo no mbegie di abe nante so no. Ye man be ye. Ye man be ye nso ampa. Ye man be koso ampa. Ye man be se gina ne nan so ampa. Esan say ye ni abre. Intenra no. Ni bossa nhran so ye anyankopon e di adom ye man. E kire ye. Na me ka say na e be to aso. A kire mu anya ntiase. Se ne awo me ne wo ye betimi anante wo santiase no. Aye man be ye. So tina waka say, oh man penyefo diska ina me say me diska ni bi inti den there be. Yen si o man sa. So won say obi ye bibi na nya ani nti na say woni bre a wo ni panifio. Na de na ye. So na me can always say. Inti na no me ba be coming to help us. Sa insurance instrument son ya me boss and rano. Ye be do musuko anano pay. Na ye twaso anya ntiase e wo sa insurance inso imu. Emra odwo me na wo share broadcast na Nkrumah etie ne e ka no. Inti this week yesterday efi Top FM ye kokasa kakra. E fa sa ne ma winti no. Ye boy homodin say ye nya sponsorship aka e ben nante many munyina from region to region so that we can discuss this, so that Ghanaians will come to the place of understanding. E betunya boy ye man na ye managina. Enti me ka say insurance on enini. Enti me bobo su bio na ma church mu yi. Say insurance di kan anasa aduma is grace, so that is the grace of God that God used to establish the foundation of this nation. So grace, I think your friend aduma or something. We are Kenyana ye grace and ye cannot you bet me at me. Okay, so there were 7 graces that are supposed to govern our nation. Adum song. I say etiti your mind. Ye boss who can ye can say fellowship with God. Say nyankopon ni o man benya anyankofa. Inti se ni nyankopon nante anyonkofa mu a wasua adwe ho da se adenti na eba oman Ghana impimpi se bibibone betu yen anase ne mekoso a won se ye be sori e won paibo mu impimpi wadwe ho abisa se adenti na ti sana esan se ye fapim sana nya unshira aduma nyankopon de to yoma the grace God has put upon our nation from independence is the grace to walk in fellowship with us. Intimate mu say send erade e pow Israel no. Sana erade a pow Ghana. Opeso nan Ghana so ema amman bebre ehu ne timpo eni ne new yam. Na san dumi so yi emra Kwame Nkrumah teso na dijuma. Na dijuma pa. Na so mu tu Kwame Nkrumah adie so no. President Bebre Ebano, they do not have the understanding. The two ideas were who will you be sitting down and discussing with them and let them know? Say, my fellow compatriots, say, Emma Ebagana Maya, Sanyame Nyankopon Achreme, Efa Mino. As I say, you two Kwame Nkrumah. There was no way that discussion could go on. And one of all kind of one. Erade Edison Tumpo a 2 year minus. Most of them today killed them. So this truth was veiled until God showed it to us. Yeah. Erade ni ope eni oye. Ni pakro ope eno de ni timpo di echere. Na sa eba ye gospel numa Yesu epam ayesuan for 12 disciples, and they were responsible for the preaching of the through the world. And then so a radical pound crofwa or then the timpo chro no maka. It is a timpo radi edit as I said since 2006 we have been pursuing it. So the first one I never met chirimu more at the fellowship with the nation. You know, a cast a fellowship with the nation. The grace of fellowship with the nation, then na erade epese anka opese ochire echere se erade timpone se emra ye nya independence se ye oman no de hu beto no so ono nyankopon so se ne oni oman no benya akoso anya nyankofa se nyankopon ni oman nya nyankofa erade eni ku oman no ho. When God have a fellowship with a nation or establishes a nation, and there is a fellowship between God and the nation, God becomes jealous over that nation and fight for that nation anytime, any moment. That's why I give an example of Israel. So no matter the nations that rises up against Israel, they cannot overcome Israel because that is the covenant of God with them. He said, I will be there to save you from your enemies. No matter the people that is fighting Israel, they cannot conquer Israel because that fellowship is there with God and them. They are chosen nation. And so Ghana also is a chosen nation. And so the first foundational stone was that God wanted to have a fellowship with the nation. And yes, people will know there is God. No. But have a fellowship with the nation. Only a man will so somebody will say apostle won't take that. Say Kwame Nkrumah also no okofa then bush me friend kankanya. It is not true. Those things are all lies and deception. And you Kwame Nkrumah was a pure soul. Since 2006. He's a pure soul. That is why the man like wearing white. The reason is this. He's a pure soul. He's a man of meditation. That's the reason why he could perceive the other African countries also must get independence. He's a man that was sent by God for that purpose. And for Ghana to establish relationship with our nation. To establish relationship with our nation. So that anything that happened to us, God will be so much concerned. Are you with me? So, sir, the grace of having fellowship with the nation is not the nation just calling God, but a relationship. That is, we identify God as our source of all, our source of everything. When you go to the Arab countries, there are days that when you go to Dubai and those places, say most of the shop closes. Because they have fellowship with their Allah. You understand what we are talking about? They don't just know that Allah is there, but the nation itself, the nation himself or herself, there is a conscious effort, say, when it is time for them to pray, most of the shops, Arab shops, they close down. Echo bonfire before they come back. That is a fellowship they were having with their God. And God wanted to have the same fellowship with us as Ghanaians from the beginning. But the question is, is that what is going on with us? No, that's not what is going on. Even when people are praying, we criticize them for praying too much. There is nowhere in Ghana that when it is time for prayer, you see all shops close and the nation dedicates a time to pray to God. There is nothing like that here in Ghana. But yet we make such noises and criticize. Why? Because the enemy knows that the foundational stone from the beginning, from Kwame Nkrumah time, is that God wants to have a fellowship with us. And when we walk in fellowship with God, His divine blessing concerning our nation will be established. The enemy knows that. The second grace, to continue to explain, as I mentioned yesterday, is the grace of divine wisdom and knowledge for management. And how do that mean? And in here, say, when we first of all, we have the fellowship with the nation, with God. Then you understand why Kwame Nkrumah was able to do things that today, no matter the president that come, they struggle, they cannot even acquit, they cannot even reach there. Then you understand what we are talking about and why we have to return. Share the broadcast, please. Also, to grant our leaders divine abilities, that is wisdom and knowledge, to manage the resources of the nation properly in the time of economic crisis that nations will be facing. The second grace of God was say ankaye nante ni arade se nante mu akaye man pinyimfo no nyankopɔ bɛma mu wisdom and knowledge. Se no betimi ebu ɔman no wɔ nneɛma a yɛwɔ. It is a mamai ɛkɔ ɔhaw mu a yɛn no our leaders will be able to manage our economy well. So does it ring a bell? How Kwame Nkrumah was able to envisage, establish factories and all the things that he did. It takes a man of wisdom, divine wisdom and knowledge to do those things. But that is the second grace that the nation is supposed to walk in. So can you imagine, say, if these graces were working as it's supposed, is there me church was say, and why 2024 election? Yes, say, have you thought of it? Say no press. Says I do me a year juma where my inswa that the grace of wisdom and knowledge is working. Can you imagine where we could have been by now as a nation? Because sometimes you see that, you think about some of the decisions that our leaders make, and you wonder, where do they have brains? Excuse my words. Are they wise at all? It's simply because the grace is not working. But this grace is supposed to work if the fellowship with God, the second grace, of the grace of knowledge and wisdom, and come back guide your mind penny for, so that they walk in the wisdom of God for our nation to be built well. Does somebody understand what we are talking about? Then the third grace that we talk about, say Nyankopon edi two of mind so, Ghana mind so, the grace for consistent divine guidance for the presidency to walk in the right path in nation building. The pattern is say, Aduma etosumiensa. Aduma anka ye mind the presidency. Erade bet sira mo kwan a ombetimi anante so a decisions on be taken no. Ebetimi build your mind no. Edi mana tutu ye. The grace upon this nation since independence. But because we turn our back, this grace are not functioning in our nation, and Ghana is struggling. By this, I'm not talking about a particular regime. I'm talking about Ghana in entirety is struggling. Since after independence, Ghana is struggling. Ghana is struggling. We choke a small source. Look, the resources we have in the nation. Small sources, then we are shouting. We are born money, but what God has given to us, the sources we are talking, that is not it. It's simply because the covenant over the nation has been broken over the years. Say, Akasa Nyankopon pama ewo man so edi juma. Anyone who sit on the seat of government, when it comes to economic issues, eradese onwan kasa ne be chirechiro mo kwan ato anamo a ekesiso mutu senia oman no betimi akonenim. But what do we see over the years as our nation is concerned? Sometimes they take decisions and you wonder whether what is wrong. It's simply because the grace is not working. The covenant grace of God is not working. Then the fourth, which explain, say leaders, God will give our leaders the wisdom for excellent decision making in productivity. You saw that in Kwame Nkrumah. The building of factories, strategic, factories are UCC here. Because that grace was started working. Say Radim Maninyansa for excellent decision making. For productivity. We're producing things and we're making moves. But that grace, because it is broken, this grace is not working. Look at the decisions that our leaders take. And sometimes we argue about it. I mean, we do the wrong thing and we argue about it. To lord ourselves. The small sources that we choke, we lord ourselves in it. But the great sources God wants this nation to have, we are not experiencing that. It is a sa adumin so yenke yejuma tio. Erade say, like I'll give the leaders wisdom for excellent decision making. That's it. Meaning say any decision that they will make concerning the nation will be very fruitful. Will prepare the nation to a greater height. Sometimes, in Pempe, you can say, oh, yeah, our nation, we have all mineral resources, and our leaders are not the A, B, C, D. Look at how look, the wisdom of God is this. Listen to this. All these mineral resources will be there. But the agreement concerning all these mineral resources, the income, the resources that's supposed to come for us to use to build our nation, are very scanty. And they cover years. Some of them 50 years, some of them 30 years, some of them 20 years. So when you be a sani apamna is when you have one city. Now the nations are going on. Anka by this time can just say unya is a 20 city and that's a 50 city. What say agreement for one city did that? So nothing. So the resources should be there. But God says anka adumi na dumia or the titi of man from beginning. Eye juma anka etwaswa akobema ye man pinyifono the wisdom to make excellent decisions. Are you understanding what you're saying? The fifth grace that's supposed to work upon our country was the grace for safety. God will be our source of security. They came not COVID in the Bible. Now you talk also can send me insurance man yankopon a person about mine so. Because a radio station is being granting me interview, and I make a trouble say. Yankopon insurance me el ban boy say ye man no en team anka ye juma anka COVID in cry it will not happen in Ghana. Because God is our source of security. And when I was saying it, those who were interviewing were saying that I said, because that time only 5 cases was in the country that time. Then I told them, you watch it and see, the case will shoot up because God divine security that's supposed to be on us because of the broken covenant, in the honor. So it will escalate. Then the week inside now, Pam, from 5 to 5,000. Just to bring our mind. And what help us, they say, we continue to pray. And the message of God always see us through. But if the covenant are established, we always walk in the consistent message of God. Number 6. Or see a buyer minor. Your Nyama Miensa Anka Ebeye the foundation of the nation. So Ghana will be noticed by that. And we see it. But it need to be well established. And that is, or see the spirit of the nation will be peace, unity, and love. That will be the spirit of the nation of Ghana. Peace, unity, and love. That's the reason why when you see in Pempino and found it there as Ghanaians, pass a beefy muja. It's different from excuse my language, it's different from that. But talking about as a nation as a whole, you see, it's very difficult. And the pass a beefy muja, forget you won't do it. Because that is the spirit of the nation, the spirit of peace. And Bekumbia will end up coming together again. But this covenant must be fully activated to control our nation. And when it comes to hospitality, Ghana is always praised. It is what that is the spirit of the nation. And this spirit and the blessing must work together for good. The 7th grace upon our nation. And then they say, Eradi say, Ankana dum eye juma ewo Yesua. Akayen the citizens. De be bia kakran anomon kakra be tu biano. Ebeye. In English, we say that the citizens, that is Ghanaians, will walk in divine prosperity. Every little effort will yield fruitfulness. Say, what would one day? What one can say your business? What be factory? And can I move to a cribby a bit to be an young couple adom a bit dos where so? None ye and a bit will flourish a bit to a cosuye. These are the covenant graces of God concerning our nation. And then me explaining to us. Say ankasa adum insonye ye juma. Anka wo Ghanaian no ejuma wo ye ejuma kakra wo ye bia no anka se koso. It is auto idea nyame nhira bema ade na auto no ebe koso, you will not struggle. But because this covenant blessing is not working, that is the reason why we continue to struggle. As a Ghanaian, you see, we have shops and we have factories in Ghana. But you know that it is not Ghanaian. Don't draw any Ghanaians. It's foreigners. It's foreign investors. So the money that is being made is not made by Ghanaians. It's made by foreigners to take it away. But in the intention of God concerning our nation, if the grace was working, the radiation name can say, Anka yen, we the citizens ourselves, these factories and things, we can be prosperous in them. Because we and into na yen, additional ye push se sa nyankopon timpo betimi asabe mu ewo ye oman no na obeka sa apostle nya oka nyina no into no what's the way forward. Yesterday I started mentioning the way forward. In my oti ase se nyankopon nanka ohwehwe obi a obetimi ma sa ensemi anase sa dum nson betimi asabe mu ewo man no into nyankopon power the late President Mills Tio adom soni started from Kwame Nkrumah, but ye to Kwame Nkrumah dia so enti adom yi etutwaye pachete de kan yi enti from Kwame Nkrumah mre so a eba nyina amempanyifo amoba nyina no obia adwen enko ho obia akoma eni honom, so they could not discover and they could not know. But still God was looking for a man that he can reenact those 7 covenant blessings over the nation. So between 2006 2008, some nenu na nyankopon power mills. Nyankopon fani crazy. Nyankopon power mills no. And I say, okay, manya obia mema mitimpo adedi. Sa inshra adum insoni. Ebet adedi or minum Ghana mami. Before mills bebano, o kanaye mano ewa jejemu. Now interesse any yen ekoko tribes and all those things, you could see that there was a lot of tribal distinction. Dagbon cases, voter, baby. I say now on minority, you know, time bomb so. So when mills came, a radin namno so to restore again that covenant over the nation. That's why mills no on say na asumdwe start ejuma. Na ntiase start ejuma. Na dodo no mu nims adekrontia mills etu sana mo no. Omofo say oh ono sana otede bi. Na nyankopon timpo a wahihye. Ato ho eno power mills. Beyonce sana ni timpo na ewo manga so. Kwame Nkrumah mre so no. That grace was there to be restored back. Is that one following? We are talking about Ghana. Inti eba ne sano. Ena mills so. Eradi Emma Mills estati Osumbi started a service. Osumbi. Sasumuno ese oko most of the regions ukwa him for wa obetimi church wase yi ana mo amote sanse me ase akonwa bia ewo bia no ewo ne chiwade ene ne niama esese oyi a ehira ewo akonwa no ma ohene ne tina so no ebema san hira no adedwuma ewo sakro no so ebi wa ese otwa dwan obi wa ese otwa uye niama esese akonwa ne pe uye ni akonwa ne pe a na enhira ewa akonwa no ebetimi edidwuma amakro no basa akonwa no wo woteso na niama esese wo ye a onya obetimi entina akonwa sikakoko akonwa so nanso enhira ewo sikakoko mu no emba esanse niama esese wo ye ma akonwa no onye that in the traditional sense so they make a note here now inti mills yankopo pa mills no e no chire mills may so rest in perfect in yankopo fan crazy ono chire President Mills adekura oman no esese okoso ye se oman ya san shran so yimi no emu adum betimi akenya e wo oman no so na san shran sem no e betimi akenya no inti yankopon e ka chire Mills say introducing the friend is a national prayer and thanksgiving service. Say every quarter biano Ghana mine yenye asida sum ema ono nyankopon. Obebi say anasen Christopher eye asida sum de bia kosiada ai nanso no enyo mine no na eye. The radiation any say anka mine no ebeye asida sum every quarter busumi mense bia no ɔman no bɛyɛ asida so mama no na mmra yɛyɛ saa asida so mu yi na afei de nsran so adom nso yi ɛbɛdedi ɛwɔ yɛ man mu nyankopɔ tumi bɛkinya saa adom nso yi sɛdeɛ nyankopɔ bɛstate anyɛ ɔman no anya nyankofa pɛsɛ deɛ ɛka na wote aseɛ nti mmra yɛyɛ asida som no ɔpanyi bi a ɔbɛbɛ biara no ɔmo sɛ nyankopɔ bɛma no nimdeɛ ɛne nhumu sɛ yɛ man nneɛma ɛwɔ bia no ɔbɛtumi amanage ne yie. The selfishness will not be there. What did the can I say? It's a emra mess by a yankopo nam so. A status and anchor is a say a twasso. By a twasso, ye jai or somno. Which is the National Prayer and Thanksgiving Service. Into ye jai or somno. That is the ritual that's supposed to be stirring the blessings. The 7 blessings has been cut off. That is a money and a member can say to us, oh, ye enemy say, ye be ye asida sumno, busumi min sebiano, ebe man yankopon, and you nyam bedidi or minor sono. Ye jayano. I say, every saying, can enyam can ye ebe ye fee? Ebi a bui, ebi fi akosombo, baby a fibiano. Ahome bia ahoma na fa sa nyiram kanea no ebebu fie inti se ahoma na etwemu a ewo mu se obetimi awo box ewo fie obetimi anya fridges eni niam ewo fie nanso no wo so a enso esan se ahoma na connect enyam kanea na yie fie ho it be sa niam na wo but it will be just be ade eda ho keke. In the sanity, yes, Embra ye jai National Prayer and Thanksgiving Service, no, which is supposed to be the connection to be bringing and activating the 7 graces of God over the nation. Ye jai, and also there was a disconnection. Who can miss Mreno? Et to 2 year ye now on money economy start ye. Never start ye pa. I should be by it. Na satam no kuform them so near ko hipik ba obai no ntutu ye fi hipik mu ning na essence ono so na irade efiase biom said the National Prayer and Thanksgiving will activate these 7 graces ofiase no yankopo efiase man entiase any the wisdom into from mills no the 8 years now mills and also so you know samre no mu no ena ankasa nyankopo timpo ankasa etintim se ya president bi babia no eso otwaso National Prayer and Thanksgiving Service because say ya na inshira no Kenya inshira no Kenya inshira de bia na inshira no ekoso nanso ye jai emra mahama bae a omuna mu ninti asese sana nyankopon yisenete senia ye tu Nkrumah fiade so a omo tu ni fiade so no omu nim se sana Nkrumah enante inshrebing semu inshran se megu o mine so no na Nkrumah enantim inshran so ya mabosui adum so ya mabosui no mu nim nti tu Nkrumah fiade so no na sa adum yi etutwa esa se niama nkese se ye ya e ma dum ni enye djuma no because ye nim nti no eja to ho na nukura sam ne se opanyin bia be ka kiro efie bia akonya wom oman bia omudi akonya omema wate ase se akonya bia wona amamre se sa akonya no amamre omugya ya eni nti na busu bi won mo se there is always a demonic hunting akonya ne hunting won se ne system nyima kono nyama nkosa esanse amambre ni amane esiso munyo masa ankonya no omunye nti no ebusia no nkoso de make no tiase me use tradition to give us understanding emfa ho echire ma mo beba emfa ho nia mo mugidi emfa ho sko amako se munya amambre masa ankonya na mo bebre. Yes, sanity. and found square manco, and found when you be a Muslim when you be. It is a bush and say, Nipan to Quankra, a manonicra obre. Esan say, a member so munyamasa kunyana, a bit midi or mushira abrewono. Omujaye. Inte, the Ami patron say, a kunye bia ewo. Every stool has a custom or a foundational custom. You say me person me translate what you mean. Every stool has a foundational custom. You are member ye see akunyani choso correct. I've gotten it. I will be asking me. You are a member ye see akunyano choso, which is the foundation of the stool. And you know the foundational custom. If you open that means say things will begin to go wayward. Let me can say what you say. And for the blessings of the stool to bet me jumana a foundational covenant, you know, as I say, dijuma, so our nation Ghana, there is a foundational graces that God through Kwame Nkrumah was there. Apostle Yeden in the book of Daniel chapter 9, Bible can say Nyankopo eka nkonse bi to ho. Na on throw to ho say Israel and Jerusalem be call akosumu for 70 years. 70 years. Na 70 years mrenu dua on be fi akosumu tiniye. Na Bible says that san throw no ewo ho. Na so prophet bi eni ho. Obi eni ho a otimi hu ye. Na so Daniel okoso se okan nyankopo de bedi bi echi na komemu. Inti no hwehwe books na ya tro prophecies na gum. Inti okenkan no kun se emra ye wemu no nyankopo ka se 70 years ye be fi akwaso mu. Inti Daniel discovered by checking the books of record of prophecy. Are you understand what we are saying? So Daniel discovered, even though they were prophets, even though you're in my opinion for they were all never got it. Nyankopon stirred up the heart of Ghana Daniel because you know you be a Nyankopon e pass send kreme yepi na mi manfo ehu. So Daniel took upon himself to cry to God, to call upon the nation. Jerusalem said, Emrasu Nyankopon ka 70 years no and ye be fi akwasumu. So it is a nyamemini udun komo say what your so for biano da. So what ya meminim minti also for biano ye me enya wa so na me kasa ba me kasa me de say asem so it is a wonti bebie na woti wa ha enye num dwa na ye pese yedwa nanso no senya Daniel eti ase enam prophecy so sanso na Nyankopon adom in 2006 obie meni efa o man no ho e kire ye say sansemi ena meditate o man from Kwame Nkrumah mbre na so esan say o man no refi o man no adwini so eninti na because I was wondering the same way I also wonder say you will go your way then e koso ye man penyifon de obebe bia no so wako school wasua de e be economic guru communication gurus enti so be economic good anka esese man no koso pa ba enti adentina upon all accolades ni no it does not matter more force our nation to do better. That was my worry. So in prayer the one day God showed me 2006 in every day ye chire me say oh my adekwentia mo mpanyifo no ba mo wosane ma nyina na nso mo nkoso ne say emra Kwame Nkrumah age independence ma ye no Israel adum nsom bi wo a ye de chichiri o man no na esa so mo tu Kwame Nkrumah die so omo mo bebe bia no eni ntiase e wo sa dum num nti no ye di ankasa ya hoden ene di yade enti ensra no enyi juma e wo man no so enti samre mi hu ye pe era me fiase di juma intimidating krata e bom mo de se me de command penyifo no se no betime hu se ye we o ye boy ho mo de se be sai chi into 2006 no Erade e kasa kira me se mingo ho mills that time no onye onbenye omampenyi but that time na indisipe so introduce no as the candidate in 2006 into go hu papa say erade ni osini erade say intimidating krata bibia me de koye so the erade kan fa o man ho ni into no say kwan a obenam so ama sa adumi betimi akenya o man no say every quarter bia no yenya osoma eye asida esum ayeye ni asida esum ema no nyankopon na enam sa osum no so no adum son a ewo oman no so a yedi chichire oman no efi Kwame Nkrumah mre no so sa adum no bekinya those graces will be activated so that Ghana will be restored back to its glory na nyamin chade we go hu ex-president Mills may so rest in perfect meaning ko kasaya and ojitumu so oba yes asum no na nyame adom e wo man no so betimi akenya oba ye nso no na ofi access oye the national prayer and thanksgiving oye every quarter no pam insua no it's a seal and that seal was there was God showed Nkrumah to do such. But because Kwame Nkrumah was cut short, this revelation of God, those who came never knew it. So the grace has been there. In Penyifone Bar, they are all struggling to make things happen. Whether revolutionary days and then. The Omu Wadrimpa, Somu Ba, Ombayenium, Bamut Kotna, Akonyano Sope, they don't know what they are doing. Because the graces of God was not at work. Inti edu Mills mre ene rade estati yi sanim timpo echire so we go President Mills satan no nye president si na meka no na me di krata ma no say the rade yi chire me efa o man no nie the rade se tu sa na moya ni shira ye di tete o man no from the beginning meka say me twini ye ntini ba twofa no sa amen. God will do it, my sister. God will do it. Obviously, my prayer is that God will reveal the seal for my blessings. May God reveal the seal of your blessing to you in the name of Jesus. And then somewhere winning piano. Every seal of your blessings, erade, emanim biemao, o Yesu Christo demo. Amen. Intino, emra me trust we. Intino erade and President Mills. That's something on introducing the national prayer and thanksgiving service. Now, for be say, oh yeah, sorry. Intina, most of the politicians were using it to tease him, but no, it was a service to reconnect the nation back to the glory that God had prepared for the nation. Into Apostle Niaoke, open say here day. Niaoke, what has it to have to do with the 2024 election? Into Asenini Mills Mranosono. Now, Sanshiran Swing as I say, Dijuma. So, the restoration of the foundation of the nation through the service during that time, it Nyankopom e power Mills. Emerald power Mills, now Miss Befission. Some renaso Nyankopo catches and catcher, Satam no use also caster as the presidential seat of government. To now ready say Uncle catcher, Bahama Satamino, into Tim Crata, Edico. Say ready say, CC na Obenamo so I had the KCB or mine. The Mills feel so no. It Mills Breno, and as I say, you near ready person or ye, if I Mills no any Mills Breno. So when Mama took over, then no omunin tiasie, just as in the days of Kwame Nkrumah, that they never understood what God was doing. In the time of MAHAMA, so he also never understood why President Mills introduced the National Prayer and Thanksgiving Service as a seal of connection to activate the 7 graces of God upon the nation. Into Amujai. Now, say a radish small be an answer or Paul be say nipa no. Eno ben nam no so idea. Sa nipa no wan na Nyankopon nam no so edi wie de ese so pese oye. Se ne nipa ni wu anaso ntiasia. Ene Nyankopon pam obi fufuro. E power obi fufuro. You go select another person to use. But Nyankopon edwuma die no no. Onam sani pano swa etutu neme yese na oman no bestimi agena ne nan so bio. So the 2024 election, even Emra Mahama efia de so no. Even Emra ote sukura na ye boy ho modni an say ye ye call ye tron krata ye call sata no omo ba Jubilee House. Inti ye call ye tron krata de ko ne ye pese ye kan wo. Set you National Prayer and Thanksgiving Service no ye ensiwano a anka pese Kenya Nyankopon aduma o man no so. Inti mo agye ebe ma o ebe ha o man no. Enu so ye ne betimi e bia obo anya seti. Emra yetu na de nso ye boy ho modia obi anya seti. Emra President Akufo-Addo enso eba during the time of campaign ye titim kata obi kodifie e de kranta no ko anka de komano se Mahama mrenso no ye bu bibi so se ne esi Nkrumah bre no so intino erade se ya restore the National Prayer and Thanksgiving, which is the seal now. Ubeba ubedi juma na so many hu se wedi juma. I say who consume e de gu kentem. That time before he became a president. It was sunny morning na. But fiensi. O satam no MP before mpenyifobia minim. Na Nyankopon bi kwa me shawo omo baye be de krata ne ma bi ama o and so still obi anya city that the problem ne say be yosofo by di nyame adwuma ache problem ne say empe bebre ya asofo no so ye ka ho pa so osofo bi e wo leader bi ho ekwan bi mu so a asofo no bi enam enye kra ene ne say se osofo fofo bi na mi bibi chiro bi no be catch na bedu bempie no o be ka so forget ni o mo ka na nya no kre enye sanete o mo pese o mo nya attention ti no mo yesa some mistake na so for bibire ye so for those pastors who are closer to some of these national leaders, that's what they do. They become selfish. Instead of listening to the voice of God, they don't. Most of them. Into who be now ka o guys forget it. Omo boa, omo pe bibi ntia. E come na di won sana omo ye. So the time of Akufo-Addo also. Look, every year now me ye broadcast. Ye wo even say YouTube and Facebook. Won say me hu say yes I you, yes I you, yes I you, but nobody was listening. Inti samre no Akufo-Addo mre nso no ye koso kaye. Ekoso akra kasa ba me aba president ni esese ni ebesi ni ye kani nyina opeso hu sa ne ma ya o wetin akọ me Facebook page Apostle Chris Livaji wono obehu ni na o hwehwe the 2021 2021 those prophecies, everything is there into details. Now 10 years, so the 2024 election erade se me nkoso ye nkoso inti ye koso a inti na esan se Mahama mreso na de ni sie inti ekoswa ekoswa still na economy call the office na be ekoswa say ti ni esi wo mreso no ese say yeah we must do the right thing before the nation can bounce back on its feet. Ti ekoswa impenyifo no bi na be call oh bi mu no mo mfiu oh erade but esa say ye pese ye manjine nti no ye tokoso finally And your friend is saying, me call the office. When you breso, quiet na medi, Klatamam said, Munti, it's no more full say, in come she be and the EPC, and in consequence and the EPC. There is nothing wrong about prophecies. But that was what they were thinking, that we were trying to talk about. We have seen things and those kind of things, and they were trying to undermine. But the catch said, "Be and young commission, that is concerning the nation. And if our nation will do well, we have to go back and do the right thing." The super. It's opinion I make no. May the character be even videos are me years pass. Now me the count. Say listen to it. Enye dibe ni epe nyame be adom metewa na menya message ne bae no and they say mahama echo voter region no oka say oba that covenant that is the national prayer and thanksgiving service no, they will set a day for that service to be done. Sadana meneji meti no meneji pa internet sabanesa na nya meti mpoa waka to ho na mahama mneso and how do you call it, that it was broken, and this man has accepted his mistake and say that when I come back, I will restore so that the nation will go back to its glory. If I say one cowbed, a one cowbed, say Yankopo di Jumadibius at the amount. Now, would di Jumano who dear dear no ejuma, and I feed a bim. Then obey. If I show, what they say. Nipa no be piani chi na Nyankopon timpo ensi ana, because it's about Ghana. And into the ye no, and into the ye ka say Nyankopon adom bema Mahama aba adentia. Is it because of NDC? No, not because of NDC, but because of our nation, because of the broken covenant to be restored. Now Mahama ne Nyankop akwa or pound years back, but miss it, and God want to restore, and the man has agreed. Say they are radicayano. Obesa nechi aye say Nyankop kayano. Say na yemma the betimi jina. That is why I took it upon myself, because from the inception I was a propagator of this will of God concerning our nation. Inti me catch ro nyameba. Your population census 2021 there, 2023 dano me nye hui. Inti 2021 there na kase eba Ghana 70% of Ghanaians ejitum so mo yan Christopher. Na Christo ni bia ote mapama say you understand the covenant of God and how it works. And that is why many are made to be self-frame Christopher. Any other religions that believes in the covenant of God and the restoration of the covenant of God, say let's rally behind this man, Mahama, so that the grace of God that's supposed to make our nation better will be restored back on the nation. So that from there, obi piano, obetime dijuma pepepe, kama. And yes, sir. Obibi Bibiano will still struggle. The nation will continue to struggle. No matter the good policies any presidential candidate will have, when they come to power, they will struggle if this covenant is not restored on the nation. And the man who through that covenant will be restored is John Dramani Mahama. And young commission, ya trato. And you come na message into your software into a member me by life and I maybe ka say ye asofofo na ye koso ehyenkom a nyame timpo a ewo man no ho no yadwen koso ba ye hyenkom say we be winning. 2024 election is not about income and you be winning. It's about nyankopo timpo or man should be restored. Because if it's not restored, whether Chedao, whether Baumio, whether Alano, whether Kennedy Japono, Oba Mujine Bia, whether Bumo, Obia Betinaso, Ombekoswabre. Do you think, say, Akufado Oba in the beginning, or respectfully, Officer and Adjenis or Abeso Mano? No, that was not his intention. That was not his intention. OBM knew how Oba government. She said, because I'm coming to come and destroy and loot the destiny of the nation. No, Obia, look, when you go there, and because the covenant is broken, and that is what is making them selfish to do the things that they are doing. Are you understanding? That is why I'm pushing this agenda. And that is why I try even to go to radio stations to talk about this so that, listen, it's about nation. Let's not, look, 2024, put politics aside so that we can restore the foundation of our nation. Start enshrining soon in the grace, these 7 graces. When it starts to work in our nation, trust me. Just as Dr. Kwame Nkrumah walked in it, when it's restored, our nation will be restored. When our nation is restored, I believe, I hope somebody is hearing this message and spread it. So whether you are MPP, whatever you are, please, I call on you. I speak to your conscience by the voice of God. Say 2024 election, God wants to reset our nation. I know some of you will still think political. I know, but my prayer is that as we're making this effort to talk to our fellow Ghanaians, God will touch you and God will give you dreams so that you know that the coming back of MAHAMA is for the restoration of the foundation of this nation, because that is what God has said from the beginning. That when that is done, any other president that comes to come and sit on the seat of government will perform well, will do well. Then you ask a question, Apostle, so what you are saying, what if it happens? What if it happens, say, most prophets that are prophesying, their prophecy will come to pass, and MAHAMA will not return? From where I sit and the things I see in the realm of the spirit. Answer, most prophets were coming out to say the things they are saying. Even international prophets are saying, say, MAHAMA, Mresu Bibi Tuchima, as yes, I didn't know answer. We started talking about that. So that was a confirmation of the things say the Eradia catching a yellow. And if God have said it, it will happen. When God has said it, it doesn't matter. Look, prophets, the majority of them will make a claim that they are speaking for God. But listen, when I come to a Radini or mine, sometimes it's very dicey. It's very, very dicey. For example, like the prophet Balaam, and also in the time of Ahab, and also the prophet Jehoshaphat, the king Jehoshaphat. And Ahab invited Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat buy no, or you be a person, be a person, or person who Nyankopa Adrian away. And so, listen to what happened. And so, when there were 100 prophets of the king Ahab, invited one, so Mumbe Kachre Nyanya Rade Epese, ye, say a cockuna ye bidding Kunimana. Now, Bible can say, Essence Ahab, Nana Suja de on 10 year Rade can into the Yankopon, Pusu Unifio. 20 years. And Nintina, and the Crasum. Emra ye women 2024 election, Miss Suman Krufobi Bebrisa. Esan say, the besi say, ye nye city man yan coupon sene seko. dodo na on person mu gina nyankopon akwan so no ye besi on akwan so no enye. And I did a broadcast on that one of these days. I think when I came to talk about the prophet that were prophesying, and they should stop that because there are many souls that belong to their church. And so when the anger of God strikes, it will affect the faith of the people. So Micaiah, the 100 prophet came and said that, oh, we need better no. Satan no na prophet ni nim say e ya tro honhom ene no mu kasa omunye false prophet no mu nim say e ya tro honhom bia esa say rade peso yi e have fear onti no onimu no mu nim say e ya tro honhom na be hye omumu a omumasa a commission in commission 100 of them the same thing. They go from Micaiah bae ni go from Micaiah ba no ka chene say oh prophet omo ka say ohen ni be wini to no so okwa onka the same thing. Nti oba no so ka the same thing. Nti Jehovah safata onim nyankopon akwan. Oti nyankopon ni. No ka say de Micaiah de bi dia wa kai die. Me honhom eni me honhom mfa. Me pese o ka kire me ni erade kan kasa efa we ho. Guess what? So Micaiah said, okay, so I can mamen ka de erade kan. Erade say se mo kwa mo be di nkugo na I have only about be wu in a time of battle. So the prophets and the people that were there got angry with Micaiah. Bakukwe si Micaiah so. And I have I can say me catch Joseph sa prophet we on case bibi papa mfe me ho da. Micaiah said there are this here na me ka. But you, the king Jehoshaphat, it is as you, but one ton of Osa di Ahabechi eko akono. Ahab yansen kwambiso. Eji Jehoshaphat atadie. Eseye. Enti oji eseye no. Ena omukwa akon. Intina friends say Moab for any omomunium kokono. Chesi Jehoshaphat. Anka mukokono. Ena Jehoshaphat tie mu se de bio enye Ahab. Me Jehoshaphat me Ahab. Answer mu that's how God saved him. But even knowing that God have said when you go you die, he still went. And that is what is happening now in the spheres of prophecy in the nation. But listen, 2024 election, it is only the will of God that will be done. Any prophecy that come down and don't define this will of God, that prophecy will not stand. I'm not standing against any prophet. I'm just recounting what is happening in the realm of the spirit. God's will be done concerning the nation. There will be a restoration of the foundation of the nation. Erade will restore the foundation of the nation. The position of God, they say, his will be done in this nation. And that will that God has started, he has earmarked the coming back of John Dramani Mahama so that his will concerning the nation can be well established. As I keep saying, me call top radio Wednesday no. MPP be almost one by interview. They are making no mubefu papa. Ye wi ekra na obi mu frefre me edidi matem. From first prophet am say oh nyame fa mo fufu nchamo. Eza say nukura mu nim ntino. Betimi e kan yamo pe. So I'm not even concerned say somebody call me a false prophet. I did that's and coming po because ye dwie man ho. Say eraditing po be ye e wo man. Wa obedidi obi atem ene keka ho nyina no. So many ye ya. So besre. To besre is simple. No so when beji. It's not necessary say o party bapa answer when beji. Say niase say ye o man be ye no money ye when beji. And that is what we are championing. 2024 election. Eradi to me bekasa. Amajo Dramani Mahama will come to power because the will of God must be done in our nation. And it's going to happen. Ebra yekese Nyankopon kasa sorry wan hindie mu. Ese makoa kam po asem e kiro man no. Enti na holding ni tumi ebe kasa. Enti prophecy said then we koso nyina no. Erade de ne sesi so pam. Empija enye djuma. Ese se Nyankopon timpo ebebe. Having said this, ye di ene djuma de na ebewie na